Alright, I have returned. So what I want to start thinking about is how to actually design this factory efficiently. So that means we need to actually start thinking about the rates of things. This is something I haven't really talked about, but resources aren't limited in Satisfactory, as in these resource nodes will continuously produce iron throughout the entirety of the game. So long as I have powered miners on them, they'll be outputting iron at whatever rate they can sustain. So building a factory in this game isn't really so much about, like, how many materials you can accrue. It's more about throughput. It's about how rapidly can you output various products. So the problem solving, oh man, that's the shadow of the space elevator. That's so cool. But the problem solving of building a factory tends to be a lot more about determining the rates of your various inputs and the rates that machines can sustain, and then trying to get the maximized output from that. So I'm gonna go over here and just start scribbling some stuff out and see what we can get. So let's see, in terms of inputs, we have 5 iron nodes at 30 per minute base rate. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. And then in terms of copper, we have 1 node at 60 per minute base rate. And luckily for now, we can sort of think of these independently. So in terms of iron, let's go ahead and open up our codex with O and look at recipes. So let's look at parts. So we have iron plates, so it's producing at 20 per minute. It's taking in at 30 per minute in that case. Producing at 15 per minute, which means it's taking in at 15 per minute as well. Okay, so iron rods at 15 per minute. Plates, let's just put those in. I guess I'll color those blue because it's still iron. Iron plates. Iron rods. And I think that's everything that's just made from basic iron. So rods are at 15 per minute. Plates are at 30 per minute on the input. I've got 5 nodes to work with. So 1-to-1 on producing plates. So I guess the question is, how many of each do I want to produce? So I need to think about screws, because those use exclusively rods. So they produce at 40 per minute, so that means an input of 10 per minute in terms of rods, because if you imagine this as producing 40 on the output every minute, that means it's doing 10 cycles of the machine per minute, which means, because it takes 1 rod per cycle, it's taking 10 rods per minute. Okay. So it would be nice to output rods in some multiple of 10, just to keep things simple. So what if we used 2 nodes for rod production? And 3 nodes for plate production. And that tends to work out pretty well, actually, because we've got 3 on one side of the platform and 2 on the other side, so I can sort of separate those. So 2 nodes for rods means a total input of 60 per minute, and that's going to be a total output of 60 per minute as well. And that's going to be from 4 machines, technically. And then on the plate side, 30 per minute means 90 per minute total input. And that's going to be 3 output lines as well, with a total output of less than that. So it's 3 to 2. This is a good time to mention that if you press N, you can bring up this search bar, and you can actually use it as a calculator. So, for example, divided by 3, 30 per minute. Now, let's start thinking about reinforced plates. So, yeah, let's see. Total output is 5 per minute, so that means we're getting in 5 cycles of the machine per minute. So, let's put reinforced plates. So that means that 5 times 6, 30 iron plates per minute as an input, and a secondary input, 5 times 12, 60 screws per minute as an input. Okay, so 30 iron plates per minute is half of our total output of plates that we're going to be producing. So let's redirect like 1 of our 3 production lines fully to that, then half of the other. And then 60 screws per minute. What would be required to get there? So default output is 40 per minute. So getting a common divisor there would be like 120. So 3 machines producing screws, and then 2 machines producing iron plates. Or reinforced iron plates, rather. So, if I want 2 machines producing reinforced iron plates, though, that's going to consume my whole iron plate chain that I've currently devised. That's not the biggest deal, but I will need... It would be nice if I had a little bit of excess so that I could pull some iron plates by hand. Okay, let's take a look at the screw problem first. So I need 3 machines producing screws in order to have 2 producing reinforced plates. So if I've got 3 machines producing screws, that's 30 iron rods, which is half of our production. So that's a total output of 120 per minute of screws, all going into reinforced iron plates for 2 machines total. Okay. So maybe I am overproducing slightly on iron rods. But I would like to have a little bit of excess going to a storage container so that I could pull from them. Maybe I do need a little bit more input ore to work with. Because if I had an extra, say, 15 per minute of rods. Yeah, okay. So if I had, because each node is producing 30 per minute, so if I overclock one miner by 50%, that gets me an extra 15 per minute via overclock. So then I don't need to devote 2 whole nodes to iron rods. I'll devote 1 with a 50% overclock, which would get me 3 outputs instead of 4. And instead of 60 per minute, it would be 45 per minute, or a 15 overage over what I needed for screws. So then that leaves a whole nother node to go into plate production. Okay, so yeah, then I can devote a whole 60 per minute of plate production towards reinforced plates, and I'll have 1 constructor outputting to a storage container at 20 per minute. Cool. So I think that pretty much solves iron in the short term. So that's going to give us an excess of iron plates, an excess of iron rods, and then 2 machines producing reinforced iron plates. We won't have an excess of screws. That's probably fine for now, though, because I feel like I'm not using screws directly terribly often. I think they're more of an intermediary product. Let's take a look at some example buildings just to make sure that's the case. I want to say that there are not many buildings that just directly use screws. Yeah, none that I have unlocked so far, so do not need excess screws just sitting around. I can safely produce those only as an intermediary. Okay, so I like that. Let's move over to the copper side. Okay, so I think I have everything worked out with a lot of scribbles. I figure I'll carefully tear that sheet off, and then maybe I'll redo this diagram in a cleaner way also, so that it's not full of scribbles, and I'll maybe put that in post, or not. We'll see. Alright. Okay, so I think we have that all planned out. So let's go start with iron. I guess the question also is, what do we want to start tearing down first? The concrete is basically doing its thing, and we're not even really going to be changing that setup. We're just going to be moving it up onto the platform. So I'm not in any rush to tear that down, and I'm always in need of concrete, so don't really want to slow that down. I think we might as well tear all of this down. So first of all, let me clear out some inventory space. Oh, there goes a fuse. I've ignored biofuel for so long that everything has died. But that is okay, because I was gonna rip this all down anyway. Let's go ahead and rip out this whole leaf production line and rip out that connection and this. So now the only thing that should be hooked up to power is our concrete line, and we only have one biomass burner, but that's fine because we've cut so much out of it. Okay, so that'll at least keep concrete going, because I am pretty certain that we are going to need a lot more concrete. Okay, well, what was I doing before the fuse blew? I was gonna empty out some inventory space so that I'm not dealing with carrying too much around. I don't need any of that. I don't need that. Probably will need cable. Don't need that. Don't need that. Okay. That's much better. So now, let's go ahead and start tearing things down. I'm just going to hold control and kind of wave over this whole section. Just trying to delete everything. Okay. And I'm leaving those storage containers there because I'm a little worried about my inventory space. Let's see how that's looking. Well, it's not looking bad, but I might as well leave those for now. Okay, so these miners I'll dismantle briefly. And oh yeah, and I think these didn't used to stack, but now they do, which is very, very convenient. All right, so looking at our diagram here, we want 4 nodes of input going into plate production. Okay, so there's 3 nodes on this side, 2 on the other, so it doesn't really work out exactly. These are all impure, correct, including on the far side. Well, I guess first of all, I know we are gonna need 5 portable miners in order to get all of those nodes active. So let's see, we have 2, so let's make another 3. There we go. So we can at least get all our miners down. So if I select production, mark 1 miner. First, let's get a ramp. And again, pressing R to change to zoop mode. And let me delete this thing. Hopefully I don't have too many things lurking around here still. Okay, let's middle mouse button, steal that, and then run a ramp down here that we're going to use to pull the output from both of these. And then we have 1 node up here. Maybe I will make this my 50% overclocked node for pulling to rod production. Because, yeah, am I right? We only have 1 50% overclocked node going to iron. Okay. These trees are getting a little bit in the way, so I think they have to go, which means I need fuel for my chainsaw. And heck, I am going to be in dire need of biomass once I start starting up everything again, so this is probably for the best. Personal storage, that's where it is. Pull the fuel. And without that chainsaw, Take this down. Alright, so you can see I was in area mode, so it took down both those trees at once. Let's holster that with H. And pull another ramp down here. Yeah. Might as well pull 2, just because that looks decent. And let's actually get some miners placed. Why not? So I could build foundations here. I guess I'll demonstrate this because I think it is a aesthetically pleasing way to build. So let's go ahead and pull some foundations across here. Can I get this with the chainsaw? I don't think I can remove that grass element. So maybe if I care about this, I would want the foundations like one level higher. I'm just a little concerned that I won't be able to line up on the resource nodes like that. Okay, well, let me show you what I was going to show you. So if I put some foundations over this node, I should still be able to place a miner on top of the node. Now, this can be a bit finicky. If you have trouble getting this to work, try deleting like one of these foundations and then building your miner while pointing at the node, but with another foundation sort of obstructing its path down to the node. So it should land on top of that foundation, but you point at the node to place it. Again, that's only if it's not letting you build. Let's go ahead and put out just a little bit more. I'm going to use 4-meter foundations instead. Again, I'm switching to that by pressing E, if I haven't mentioned that already. Switching to 4-meter. You can switch between like all variants of a particular construction by pressing E. They group them together. Okay, we need more concrete. I'm glad I still have my concrete production line hooked up, because we are going to need a lot more of it. Alright, so let's go ahead and zoop out another set of foundations to cover this node, and put down a miner. And I'm going to place it this way, so that both of these can be directed onto that ramp we have over there. And that's looking pretty decent. Eventually we'll find more cosmetic options for our construction projects, such as angled foundations that can fill in these jaggedy gaps. Okay, let's try the same approach over here and build foundations up at this level. So let's pull some 4-meter foundations and zoop to there. That should be enough. And now let's pull a Mark 1 miner. Still blue, so it's still picking up the node underneath. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I have fallen off my platform. There we go. And how do we want this outputting? Do I just build it at an angle? Nah, I'll build it like that. And I should be able to pull a belt out comfortably. Yeah, yeah. Okay. And this is going to be our 50% overclock. So we pulled this power shard out, so I'm just going to go ahead and hit 4 to dump it in there, and drag this up to 150%. So that's 45 per minute output, which is what we're looking for iron rods, I believe. Yeah. All right. And yeah, meanwhile, these miners over here are going to be plate production. Let's head over to the other side to get those miners placed. Let's check how we're doing on fuel. Well enough for sustaining concrete alone. All right. So we have 2 nodes over here. Well, first let's get our foundations laying. I suspect that if I pull a foundation at this level, yeah, it's gonna clip like crazy. So we're gonna have to go higher. We'll see if we can get away with going off of this and still connecting to these nodes. I think we can, at least for that node. Let's try to place a miner. Hey, it seems to be working. Looks lined up. And another one there. Okay. Looking pretty good. Alright, let's just change to default build for that. Okay, so we have our iron inputs set up. And let's see, for plates, we are going to have 4 machines running. So where do we want to build all of this out? Maybe I should have... Because, yeah, I'm gonna need... I kind of want all iron production on one side, which I don't think gives me much of a choice besides pulling a belt to one side or the other. Like, most of my iron is over there, so I figure I'll combine these two and pull over there. Oh yes, so one thing you definitely have to think about is belt speed. So if I hover over this Mark I belt, you can see it says transports up to 60 resources per minute. So each of these miners, without an overclock, will be outputting 30 ore per minute. So I can actually combine both of them onto a single belt. So this is where the concept of mergers and splitters comes in, when you want to get a very, you want to get your resources either combined onto a single belt or split onto multiple belts. Can I align you to this? Will you stay aligned with that? Not all the way out there. Let's see if I can. There. So I just put down a merger temporarily so that I could keep alignment with this miner way out there. So I think now I can pull a Mark I belt to here. And you'll notice, so when I'm placing the merger, you see it has 3 orange in arrows, 1 green out arrow. So a merger is 3 inputs to 1 output. So it's designed to take a set of 3 inputs, or fewer, and combine them all onto 1 output line, which is exactly what we're doing. So now I'm going to take this and connect it here, and I think there's a 1.0 feature where I can press R and say, yes, use straight conveyor lines. So that's going to cause it to align to foundations and try to form 90-degree angles all on its own. That is way easier than what you used to have to do previously, which I guess I'll just show you for old time's sake, which was, because we only had the default building mode, you would have to go out here and align it with the target and then move 2 spaces back, place that, and then align it to the target, and that would get you a nice 90-degree turn. If you care about that sort of things. If you're not as anal as me, you know, you could just do that and call it good. But now you can also just switch it to straight mode. Get these nice, clean turns without worrying about it at all. Alright, so let's go ahead and pull these up to here. Oh, yeah, gosh. Yeah, it's amazing that you can just... I don't even have to stop there. I can just place that whole thing, including the curve. Sweet, yeah. All right, let's continue. And I'll just pull this probably as far this way as I can. Okay, so that's should be 60 iron per minute coming in on that belt. And we're gonna do a very similar setup over here. So with these 2 miners, we're gonna merge them both together into one 60 iron per minute. I should probably start putting extra things on my hotbar for building. So okay. Well, I can just hover it and hit 5, bind that to hotbar. Let's go to the merger. We'll bind that to, well, let's bind the splitter to 6 and the merger to 7. That's looking good. Okay, so merger is 7. Let's go ahead and get our output facing towards us, that green arrow, and then hold control. Okay. Yeah, now you can see that we've got guidelines associated with both of those miners, showing that their green output is going to the merger's orange input for both of them. So that's nice. We can guarantee that's aligned. And now let's just dump some belts into that. Oh, well, I said guarantee that's aligned, but that clearly has a bend in it. Maybe that's not the case. Oh, interesting. So I am assuming that what's happening here is that I'm placing the merger while holding control, and that's sort of forcing it to align to positions on this foundation. Yeah, okay. I feel like that guideline shouldn't be appearing. So you can see when I hold control, it appears for the back one, but I don't think it is completely aligned. So let's try something here. Let's try nudging. So I press H, and that locks the hologram into place. So I can now move freely around without it moving. And then you can press the arrow keys. Well, if I press the correct controller button, you can press the arrow keys to nudge it side to side, all around. Yeah, so it is just never going to quite line up with this miner. At least as long as I have foundations here. Okay, well, let's not make this harder than it needs to be. Let's just place this merger somewhere like here. And let's just try to force this belt to work out. So if I change it to default instead of straight, it will curve cleanly and not complain about not going in directly. So let's just do that. And pull this line. Oh, that looks a little funny if you do it like that. It puts the slope early rather than on the ramp. So I am instead going to pull this to here, say, and then pull this up the ramp. It says I'm overlapping another object's clearance, but I don't really think so. Okay, and then let's pull this to here for now. Looks pretty good, so that should be one 60 per minute belt fed by 2 miners doing 30 per minute apiece. And then for you, let's go ahead and zoom that out. And this will be our 45 per minute belt from a single miner. Let's drop you there. Let's pull you up to here, say. Okay. Something like that. All right, so that 45 per minute belt is our iron plates. Sorry, that 45 per minute belt is our iron rods. The other two are iron plates. So where do I want plate production to be? Do I want it to be over here or over there? Maybe. Let's just get this out of the way for a sec. I think I want plate production to be in that far corner. Oh, not the pole. I want the belt. Let's just hit 3 for that. So, the best way to get there, let's pop you there and pull you. If I pull this way, it wants to come like that. So let's just tuck you over here. Yeah. And then pull you over here. And increase your height. Okay, so I can't get a full height increase there. So let's pull you over here. And maybe I don't care about that actually. Let's just pull you at this height all the way across. Okay. So you'll be over here, something like that. And then this one will be our rod production. So maybe let's start placing down machines for rods. So we know from our diagram we're going to need 3 constructors for that. So let's just plunk them down. So let's, I guess I'll align these 2 foundations. And just 1, 2, 3. Okay. I think that'll work out just fine. So I think for this we're going to do a manifold design, and I feel like a lot of people just use manifolds and sort of intuitively understand how they work, but they really depend a lot on the details of how splitters work. So that's something I'll have to talk about at some point, is that the details of how splitters will basically like output evenly across a set of output belts, unless those belts back up to the point where the splitter can't output to them anymore. And at that point, the splitter will output to the next available belt. So if I had a splitter outputting to 3 belts, and one of those was running slow for whatever reason, and we had a back of materials all the way to the splitter, it would output those materials instead to the other remaining 2 belts at an increased rate. And that might sound like a problem, but it actually makes designs like this feasible, and very, very simple, actually, to set up. Okay, so for this manifold, we're going to go ahead and set up a splitter, and just align it with that machine. So now, I'll just go ahead and connect that machine with a Mark I belt. And then we're going to set up another splitter in line with that one and the next machine, and another splitter in line with that one and the next machine in turn. Actually, I don't technically need this final splitter, so I won't include it. Now let me just connect up some belts to all of this. So that to that to its machine, and that to that machine. And then we finally take our input belt, running at 45 per minute, and just hook it up to that first splitter as an input. So what's going to happen here? So this is going to be making iron rods at 15 per minute. Now we have a belt of 45 per minute coming in, and you would think that that belt would be split evenly between the 2 outputs. So each would get an output of what, like 22.5 a piece. Let me just double check myself on that using the built-in calculator. 45 divided by 2, 22.5, yes. So you would think that you would be getting 22.5 on this belt going into this machine, and 22.5 on this belt going out of this machine, or going on to the next splitter in the line. And that 22.5 number then getting split turns into, what, like 11.25, and that's really ugly. But what's actually going to happen is the 22.5 going in here is going to overwhelm the ability of this machine to consume iron ingots. So it can only consume at 15 per minute. We're inputting 22.5. So there's going to be a backup. And that is actually good in this case. That's what allows a manifold design to work. So the resources are going to fill up this machine slowly as it overpaces the production rate. And it's going to back up onto this belt, and it's going to back up to the splitter. So at that point, any excess is going to go to this belt, because this belt can take more. It can take in excess of 22.5. And because of that, this, ultimately, is only going to be getting 15 per minute. Once it's backed up to the splitter is only going to feed it at a rate of 15 per minute, because that's the rate at which the belt will clear going out of here. So, instead of getting an even split between these two, we're actually going to get a split of 15 per minute to this, and 30 per minute going to the next splitter. And that splitter is actually, for real, going to split evenly. 30 per minute coming in, and it's going to output 15 per minute, 15 per minute, and that exactly aligns to the production of iron rods. So this is why you can feed a design like this. Now, technically, because of how splitters work, I could also do this whole setup with one fewer splitter. I could just have one input going to one splitter, going to 3 outputs. The only reason why I'm using a mini little manifold design here is both to teach it to you, optimistically, and also just because I think it will look better. I don't want to try to rig up having one... I'm getting some thunder back there. But I don't want to try to rig up having one input line going to one splitter, splitting to 3 outputs, and having the whole thing look clean, just because I don't want to extend this ramp and get this line to come into one cleanly. You know what I mean. I just think this little mini manifold will look better, and having one extra splitter is not the end of the world by any means. So, hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully that little description I did equips you to understand why manifold designs work the way that they do. I feel like understanding that little detail of splitters can help you think more intuitively about when and where you actually need more splitters. For example, if you had an input of, let's say you had an input of 60 per minute, and you had 2 machines producing iron rods and 1 producing iron plates. So 2 taking an input at 15 per minute, 1 taking an input at 30 per minute. You could feed all of those with a single splitter. You could take that belt of 60, split it 3 ways, feed it into all those machines. 15 plus 15 plus 30 is 60. You can feed all of those off of a single splitter because the 15 per minute belts will back up all the way to the splitter, and the excess will go to that machine that consumes 30 per minute. So, hopefully that makes sense. Lets you get away with some slightly simpler designs if you're familiar with details like that. All right. Anyhow, let's start looking at iron plates. So for that, we're going to need 4 constructors. Oh, I am out of reinforced iron plates. So maybe this will just turn into a brief handcrafting nightmare. Alright, well there we go. In the meantime, we've started getting a bit of rain. It seems to have petered off a bit, just getting a few drips still. And hopefully, that's one of the last big handcrafting sessions we need to do. I did take the opportunity to just walk away and get some water though, and do something else. And I'm sure our concrete production was churning away in the meantime. Assuming our power didn't die. Yeah, I see green lights. We're doing good. Alright. Where were we? We were plopping down 4 constructors, I believe. So let's leave a bit of a gap between that and our other line and see. Yeah, alright. It's almost like I planned this, but I did not. So let's see. We've got 2 lines, 60 per minute coming in. Each constructor needs 30 per minute, so this is a nice, easy 2-splitter situation. At least I think. We'll just put that in between the 2 machines and see if this thing will, yeah, just line up for us. Boom there, boom there. And let's do the same thing over here. Just put it in between. Let's grab this as a straight. Ooh, that's so nice. I can just do that all in one shot. And then the same thing into each machine. All right, and let's set recipes on these, all producing plates. Now you can, you'll see there's a copy settings and a paste settings down there. I'm going to copy settings. You can also Control-C. Let's see if I can remember how to do that on this controller. There we go. Control-C while just looking at it. I think while you have that gear is actually what makes the determination, is in I don't think I can Control-C from back here. Doesn't seem like I can. Okay. So let's Control-V, Control-V to paste, Control-V to paste. All right. Cool. So now, each of these should be producing iron plates. Yeah, that Control-C, Control-V copying settings is very useful when you have a big line of machines all doing the same thing, especially since it will copy stuff like underclock, overclock. At least I think it'll copy overclock. I'm not sure how that works with pulling power shards from your inventory. It'll definitely copy underclock, though. Cool. So yeah, now we've got 4 constructors, all dumping out iron plates, and that should fully consume our iron input. Oh my gosh. I'm just realizing that I completely skipped smelters. I completely forgot about them. I'm ashamed. Let's see how hard it will be to correct this oversight. That looks, well, I mean, not ideal, but you're always going to end up with some funny curves when coming out of a miner, because the nodes aren't aligned to the world grid, so it's always just a little funky. Granted, it could be made less funky, but here we are. That's better. All right. Okay, same situation, other side. Alright. And now we are at the point where we can merge and then get this whole thing. Just gonna cut in here during the edit. It's unfortunately at this point that the rain in the background starts turning into hail, so we're gonna have to call the episode here. I just finished setting up a merger for these smelters, get ready to pipe it up onto the platform, and we'll see you next time for actually setting up the final production for this little starter factory. That's going to be the end of today's episode. Thank you all for joining me, and I hope to see you in the next one.